Hi, I'm Gary White for Central Kentucky Television. I'm talking with Terry Mills, who is the representative for Marion County, Casey County, and a portion of Pulaski County, as we're recording this, which is the 24th District in Kentucky. We talked a little bit about the special session and the pipeline in our first section, and now we want to talk a little bit about the Marion Adjustment Center. I know not too long ago we were informed that their contract was not going to be renewed by the state, or the company, the Correction Corporation of America. What's the status? What have you been hearing recently about the status of the Marion Adjustment Center and the employees there?
Yeah, this is an extremely unfortunate happening for our community. As I think I've made clear, I learned about it 1 hour before the press release went out making the announcement. Since then, we've been doing everything we can, and when I say we, I mean Senator Higdon and I. We've been to the governor, made the appeal to give more time. We've been working with the CCA. We've asked the Industrial Foundation to hold a job fair, which they did in an outstanding way. We've asked for all the resources the state has to help the people whose jobs are in jeopardy and now appear to be going away. Last week I talked to officials from the CCA, Jerry Lankford, who's I believe their PR guy, and I didn't get a lot of hope that something else was coming in. The state contract that decision is final. I don't think that'll be changed. MAC was the last private prison in Kentucky, and there's been a systematic elimination of private prison contracts over the last 5 years in the state of Kentucky. So I don't think that'll change. And I'll throw another item into that. When the Attorney General of the United States announced this week that he wants to do what Kentucky has done to reduce prison populations all over the United States. You know, CCA is a company that deals with prisoners all over the United States, and I think that probably painted a bleak picture of any possibility of CCA getting more prisoners in here. So I know that the CCA, the corporation, is trying to find a tenant, trying to move forward, but to be honest, I don't see a lot of progress and a real solution anytime in the immediate future. With that said, I know that the employees, I went to the job fair that the Industrial Foundation held on August 8th. There were a lot of people there, a lot of great employers anxious to help these people from our industrial facilities here, and from for example, Fayette County Detention Center, which are good jobs, but the people have to drive to Lexington. I know CCA is offering to help those that they can, but they have a national base of facilities, and it would require people to move, and I don't encourage that, and I know how when we establish our roots, people are just like me, we want to stay. So with all that said, I want to make a comment about the people I've talked to who work at MAC. They are positive. They're moving forward. They're taking this, I think, in the best possible way it can be taken, and I just want to commend all of them. And you know, I want to try to help them. Unfortunately, I can't call somebody and say, put them to work.
Right.
But I want to do what I can to be a reference, or any way that I might be able to help these people. So I just can't say enough about the attitude of most of the people who work at MAC. They were a close-knit group, like a family, and I know that because I have relatives and friends who work there, and it's just unfortunate that this has happened. But the attitude that I'm hearing is we have to take what life gives us and move forward, and they will find work. I'm confident of that. So.
And have you been told when the potential close date?
According to the CCA official, the date he gave me on the phone last week was September 31st. They were going to have all their prisoners out by September 31st. and keep a what do you call it, a nominal staff there to maintain the facility. A few people, in other words, to maintain the facility. So that's the latest thing I've heard on.
Okay, so that's on the Marion Adjustment Center update for you. Now, also, we talked a little bit about the special session that is coming up, but also the regular session is not too far away as well.
That's right. After the special session, and I'll say about the special session, what is put in every news article about special sessions, at a cost of $60,000 a day to taxpayers. We don't want to be there any longer than 5 days. So I'm going to be extremely irritated, not like it'll make any difference, but if we don't get that done in 5 days, I'll be very disappointed. And something that people don't talk about a lot, you know, lobbyists spent $5.5 million in a 30-day session. So consumers who have to pay the expense of lobbyists, I think, also get a break if we can get in there and get out as quickly as possible. So point that out. From after the special session, after the 5 days in which we do what we're supposed to do and come back, we'll continue our meetings during the interim period. The interim period is when we gather data and information and hear from people about what the needs are and what laws might need to be changed or be put into place. And then it's all about preparing for the 2014 session, which begins the first Tuesday in January, and it goes next year to be a 60-day session. So in Kentucky we have 60-day sessions in even numbered years, and 30-day sessions, which means 60 work days, which is actually 12 weeks. So we'll have a long session. We have a lot to do. We will probably, the most significant event that will happen during the regular session in the early part of 14 is the budget. We have a 2-year budget that we do in long sessions, and I don't know how to say this other than to say that there's a long list and a long line of people, agencies, and state-funded projects that say they need more money. There's a long line. So sequestration on a national level, because Washington is pretty much dysfunctional and couldn't reach an agreement on how much to cut the federal budget. Sequestration went into effect, and we heard testimony in the Appropriations and Revenue Committee last month saying that if it stays the same, sequestration in itself will amount to $26 million in cuts to education and $18 million in cuts to human resources, which affects things like heating assistance for the poor. Education, you don't have to say what that affects. Education budgets are already strapped. You know, the SEEK funding has not kept up with inflation.
And that figure is just for the state of Kentucky.
That's for the state of Kentucky.
$26 million and $18 million.
Expected effects. Now that could change when Congress goes back into session if they reach a deal. So if they reach a deal is it's a big question this day and time, Gary. I heard a politician say recently that I'm not to the right and I'm not to the left. I want to go forward. And that's such a profound statement. If we don't start compromising and meeting each other in the middle and get all these extreme positions out of the mix, then I don't know how we're going to move forward. But that's an editorial comment that you didn't ask for, and I just figured I'd get that in.
Right.
So budget will be the big deal. I know in Marion County there's funding issues, with education funding issues. And you know, since I got elected, from the very day I decided to run, my position was, let's expand gaming take the revenue and solve some of these problems we have with education and other areas. Well, unfortunately, that hasn't been done. I still advocate for that. I'm a proponent of gaming. As latest estimate I saw is that it would mean about $700 million additional revenue to the state of Kentucky, and now we're sending it to Indiana. Now Ohio has opened casinos, and all the states that surround us. So I'm frustrated that we can't do that. I'm a proponent of tax reform. Our tax code is outdated. We had an intensive tax reform commission spent a year studying this, and the conclusion they reached, they made a bunch of recommendations about how we can bring our tax code up to date. Well, it just so happens that it was going to bring in additional revenue. So for that reason, because people said it was raising taxes, it pretty much fell by the wayside. I don't know what will happen. We'll probably have a discussion about that. I don't know what will happen about gaming. To me, those two issues could solve most of our funding problems. But again, that's just me. With that said, we're things like raises for state employees. I'm a proponent of giving state employees raises. Well, they haven't had a raise in 5 years, and I went to the grocery, and when a loaf of bread is $2.79 and it's gone up so much and gas has gone so much, keeping pay the same is just like a pay cut. So I'm an advocate for that. And all of those things will be discussed during the 2014 session related to the budget. So that'll probably be the dominant force. Now there will be some other issues brought up. And usually there's about 12 to 1,500 pieces of legislation filed. So I can't cover everything that's going to be brought up, or can't even predict what's going to get all the publicity. Last year it was hemp. I think hemp may have a lower profile this year since nothing has been accomplished at the federal level. So I thought I'd list a few things that I'm maybe interested in, and then some other general things. As far as I go, I've been working throughout the interim, having meetings and gathering data on what we can do to improve our highway safety by curtailing the use of electronic devices while we're driving. Texting is now causing more deaths than DUIs, and I think that's sad. I think it's time for us to step up and make a statement that we're going to get tougher on people who text while they drive. So I'm working on some legislation to increase the penalties for texting while driving, and also to consider banning electronic devices in school zones and in construction zones, parts of the road that are marked that way. And that would be one of the problems with enforcing our texting law now. It is illegal to text and drive now, but law enforcement folks say you just can't enforce it because you can't, it's so hard to prove that a person is texting while driving. And if we made it in school zones and construction zones, then to me, an officer, just by looking at, basically if you have your phone in your hand, then it's a citation. So those are some little things. I know the governor has proposed a regulation that adds points to your driver's license if you're convicted of texting while driving. 3 points, so that ultimately you could lose your license if you got 12 points. And that hasn't been possible before, to actually lose your license because you text while you drive. So I'm interested in that and working on that. I have pre-filed the bill to create a fund to help addictive gamblers, which is now, I believe, the fourth year I've been there, and the 4th year I've filed it. So I would like to see us pay attention to the downside of gaming. Again, since I'm a proponent of gaming to raise the additional revenue, then I feel obligated to recognize that there's a dark side to it. And so
right.
I would like for us to do that. I would even be, as I hear more and more about school funding problems, I would even be open to bringing up the school bus advertising again, but I'd have to have a little clue from somebody. For example, if a school system wanted to try it as a pilot, I'd be more than happy to file legislation to try to get it allowed. And it might have a possibility of passing if we made it somebody who wanted to try it. By my estimation from my research in that area before, I think we could raise hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing that, and without raising taxes. So those are some of the things personally I'm talking about. Now, other things that I expect to come up: drones. There's been a constitutional amendment filed to delineate when you can use drones and require a judge's order and that kind of thing. To me, that's national policy. I wish we would stay away from those kind of things, to be honest, and do the things that directly affect the people of Kentucky. Pay more attention to that. See, there's going to be a discussion about coal severance tax. For every ton of coal that's extracted from the ground, there's a tax put on the people who do it. And as to how that, the coal counties over in eastern Kentucky are suffering. Some of that tax money goes out to other parts of the state. They want more of it to go to eastern Kentucky. I expect that to be a hotly contested issue, especially since leadership in the General Assembly tend to be from the eastern Kentucky side of the state. So I expect that to be hot. There's been a bill filed to lower the alcohol level for being considered drunk while driving. Right now it's 0.08. There's been a bill actually pre-filed to lower this to 0.05. Don't know where that'll get. I'd be surprised if it got very far. But those are some of the things that are, and then there'll be bukus, if that's a decent word, of special interest bills, as there always are, to help certain industries, certain business types, and certain individuals. And so it'll be an interesting session. Again, there'll be 12 to 1,500 bills filed. Typically, maybe 100, 150 of them become law. So that's what will be happening when we go into session in January of 2014. And I think that's, may I put a plug in for the State Fair?
Yeah, the State Fair will be starting tomorrow.
State Fair.
We're recording this on Thursday, August the 15th.
Yes.
First day.
State Fair begins August the 15th. I want to encourage everybody to go. This year, for the first time in 8 years, the Legislative Research Commission, which is the body that does most of the preparation work for the legislators, is having a booth at the State Fair. And I'm actually going to go there Saturday on the 17th and be present at that booth from 11 a.m. to noon. So I want to be there in case some of you are visiting the State Fair and would like to go fill my ear about an issue, or just visit or ask questions. Then I want to welcome my constituents to come by and see me there between 11 and 12 Saturday, August 17th. State Fair is about everything that's Kentucky. It's inexpensive entertainment, so I want to encourage everybody to get out and enjoy the next 4 or 5 days from today, which is, again, it's Thursday before the State Fair. Looks like great weather, so I just want to encourage you to get out and enjoy the State Fair if you can. A lot of free concerts too, so don't forget that, especially the oldies. I believe it's August 22nd, which I'm angry because I can't go, but it has the old time music, the Turtles, Happy Together, and all those kind of things. So I always like to go to those, but just want to encourage you to go, and thank you if you come by and see me at the Legislative Research Commission booth. I want to thank you for that.
Well, again, I've been talking with District 24 State Representative Terry Mills about the special session that's coming up, as well as next year's regular session and some other issues for Marion, Casey, and Pulaski counties. This has been Gary White for Central Kentucky Television.